Our compost has arrived and it's time to start sowing. I thought I'd film this video to show you how I sow all my seeds and to tell you what I do with them afterwards. Today I'm sowing some chilies. I have these varieties, lots of different ones. As you can see, some of these are older packets from last year that I'm sowing again this year. Most of the time they'll be fine, but I'll know pretty soon whether or not they've germinated, and I always sow lots because I have an audience for it. The plants have homes to go to, so it doesn't matter if I end up with more plants. And this year I'm growing chilies, aubergines and peppers, largely with a view to giving them to people as houseplants. And the idea is that you get a nice greenhouse plant that may also give you some food as a bonus. So this is what I'm sowing. I sow all my seeds into these large trays. It's called a multi-cell tray. This one has 84 holes, 7 by 12. They're fairly big and the plants can stay in there until I'm ready to move them on either outside or to their actual final potting position. And as you can see, they have really big holes at the bottom, which helps not just with watering, but also makes it easier to get the plants out, because you can just pop your finger in and the plug lifts out. And that's what I sow everything on, not just the hot plants, but everything I start I put into these, and that's worked really, really well. So first of all, it's time to fill this tray with compost, and I'll be picking up the compost with this shovel and distributing it like this. Just break up all the slightly bigger bits and then just gently shove it on for the whole tray. As you can see, I'm doing this at the kitchen table. I don't have the stamina to do this standing up, so I don't sow things else outside. I sow everything sitting down, and I have the compost on a chair next to me, and that works pretty well for me. And I've put an old compost bag under here to collect any spilled soil. I'll be putting that back into my compost bag when I'm done sowing. So if you ever get any sticks or something, just put them aside so that when you're sowing seeds, it's slightly too rough. But by and large, this is really nice. It works really well. And just shove it on everywhere. I do this quite slowly. It always takes me a while to do it, but I don't mind that. I enjoy doing it. And I also sow a lot, so I'm really used to doing this. A bit much in that shovel, but that's fine. So once you have soil everywhere, I firm it down with my fingers like this. And just push down hard into each module like this. Until it's all firmed down, and I'll put in any remaining compost, and that gives me a good depth for putting in my seeds. So next is putting in the little seeds. I do them like this. I'll see what's in the bag, and to make it easier, because I sow so much and because I don't want to use too many labels and things, I will either sow a full tray of the same thing. Not in this case, I'm not going to sow a full tray of Hungarian hot wax chilies, but I'll try and sow at least a full row or two. That'll help me keep things clear and organized and straightforward. So let's see what's left in here. Hungarian hot wax, something I used last year. Can't remember how they did. I don't think we ended up growing any of them. I think they all went to other people. Oh, there's a few seeds left. I think that'll be 1 row's worth. I'll just put them in like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's it. That's the Hungarian hot wax chilies gone. So now I'm going to write a label for them. I always use this marker, Artline garden marker, which I found to be the one marker that withstands our sun and wind and rain till the end of the season. So I reuse labels. This is one from last year. I'll use the back of it now. And once that's been used, I'll scrub it off with one of those magic erasers and use them again. So I always write down the type of vegetable, chili, and then underneath I'll write the specific variety, Hungarian hot wax. And I'll put down the date. Today's the 23rd. And I put down how many I sowed. 2, 4, 6, 7. And I do this so that I can keep track of how well things germinate, how long it's been since I sowed, and whether things should be germinating, and to see how many more I might need to sow. So that's what it says. And doing it this way, sowing a full row of something, means I can use 1 label for all of these rather than 7 labels. So that's that done, and that's 1 seed packet used up. Right, next we have Ring of Fire chilies. Let's see how many we've got here. Yeah, some left. Hello, Ring of Fire. How are you doing? Oh, a few more in there, but not that many. Let's see how far I get with those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2, 4, and there's 6 left, so I'll count that as a second row. And I'll leave 1 empty. 3, just to make it easier to manage. And that's that packet used up as well. And I'll just write the label for it. Chili, Ring of Fire. And it was 13 and the 23rd of February. And when there's 2 rows, I always put the label on the left hand side looking at it. And then I'll know 13, that's this row, and that row as well. So I'll know the next label starts the next variety. And that's how I sow all my seeds. Doesn't matter what it is. They all go in this tray, this type of tray, and they all stay in there until they're ready to be planted out or to be moved on to someone else. And that works really well for us. You can see the size of this tray, about this bit. It's quite big, but you could just about fit it on a windowsill. In most places, I think it would hang over, but you could sit it on there. And if you grow a few vegetables, I reckon one of these trays would do you really nicely, because you could do 7 broccolis, 7 cauliflowers, 7 lettuces, and so on, and you could grow quite a lot of garden in a tray like this. One of my experiments is this packet of chilies. It's cayennes, and they were packed in 2016, and it says sow by 2018. So I'm going to sow these, and I'm going to see what germination rate is like, to see if we get anything at all and how they've held up. There's quite a lot on there. It's frustrating. It was a packet with loads of seeds. I don't think they're one of ours. I think they're ones that were sent to us, and whoever sent them don't get around to sowing them. So we'll see how they get on. And because they're so old, I think I'm going to sow 2 seeds to our module and see how they get on. And hopefully at least one of them will germinate. Once I'm done sowing my seeds, I'm just going to cover them all with compost and pat it down again. So it's exactly the same as before. I just sort of gently sugar it onto the cells, cover them all, put compost into all of them, gently spread it. Making sure that I'm not spreading the seeds at the same time. And that's that. There we go. And I'm going to pat it down again. And that's a tray done. And I find that final pat down at the end helps create a little hollow for water to go into, and also helps keep everything in the tray, everything in together nicely. Now, hot plants will stay in the house until May, until they're either ready to go in the polytunnel or be moved on to other people. So they will be going into the spare bedroom upstairs, where they'll sit in the bay window with some grow lights, because it's very dark here and it's very dark in the house. And I will not water them until they're up there. So we will also cover that desk in the window with old compost bags, and that will help with the moisture. For any other things, anything that is not a hot plant, I would sow them the same way. And then early on in the season, I would keep them in the house, in the kitchen, until they germinate. As soon as I see green, I'd move them outside to the grow house. I would water them there, and I would also water them here to give them a head start, to help them germinate. And this is because for germination, plants need warmth, they don't need light. They only need light after they have germinated. With the exception of plants that you sow on the surface, so some flowers are like that, but vegetables you bury, at least all the ones I can think of. So that works quite nicely. And from about late March onwards, when the light levels tip over, and towards the end of March, I would not germinate them in the house. I would move them straight outside, but it depends on the light and the temperature and the weather. So for now, I would keep them in the house until there's green and then move them outside. And the hot plants will just go straight upstairs.